Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel at NDN TV Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button and be the first to get notifications.
Following their rather poor internally generated revenue collections, the federal government recently declared 5 states insolvent. The bankrupt states include Katsina, Kebbi, Borno, Taraba, and Bayelsa State. While one can easily adduce insecurity as a factor for the non-performance of some of the states, Niger Deltans are rather curious as to why the oil-rich Bayelsa State is included in the list of financially broke states. Bayelsa State, with a population of about 1.7 million people, was created out of the old River State in 1996. With vast crude oil and natural gas deposits, Bayelsa State is a major contributor to Nigeria's foreign exchange earnings through extensive petroleum exploration and exploitation activities. Despite this reality, majority of Bayelsans are rural dwellers who live in poverty, brought on by the very difficult terrain, lack of transportation, health, education and other infrastructure, and the neglect of the people, as well as their welfare and environment, by successive federal and state governments, and indeed the international oil companies prospecting for oil in the state. Most communities in Bayelsa State are surrounded by water, making them inaccessible by road, which has led to an almost non-existent commerce and zero industrialization. Apart from being one of the most expensive states to live in Nigeria, it also has one of the highest unemployment rates in the country, with the state government being the main employer of labor. With this situation, internally generated revenue is bound to be poor. Little wonder Bayelsa State has been classified as insolvent, in other words, bankrupt.
There is no way that federal government can declare Bayelsa bankrupt. Maybe it is statements to the extent that our internally generated revenue is low.
With the 13% that is coming, with the allocation that is coming, the state government have not said we are bankrupt. So I don't think we are bankrupt.
We all read in the newspapers that your state and 4 other states are insolvent. As people of faith, we rejected it. But the facts are clear about those who have said so. They were speaking to facts.
While most Niger Deltans blame the federal government for Bayelsa's predicament due to its lopsided federal system of governance that puts the natural resources wealth in the hands and control of the federal government, they say past rulers of Bayelsa in the last 20 years had done very little to uplift the state. They argue that despite receiving huge sums of monies from the federal government as 13% derivation, not much was invested into the rapid industrialization of the state. With an average receipt of over 10 billion naira monthly, Bayelsa's last 4 governors since 1999, Chief DSP Alamisia, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, Chief Temipri Silva, and Honorable Seriake Dixon have together received trillions of naira in federal allocations, yet Bayelsa State is begging for development.
When expenditure is more than revenue. And what the implication is that Bayelsa has been operating a deficit budgeting for some years now.
With the oil companies refusing to move their headquarters to the state and the near absence of commerce to boost employment generation, there is no way the internally generated revenue can be increased from what it is now, which is less than 10% of what the state gets as federal allocation. Due to poor governance, even when the federal government granted Bayelsa State an oil block, OML 46, the Atala oil field, from which it would have made huge revenues, its own oil firm established to run it, the Bayelsa State Oil Company, could not make a success of it, as OML 46 is today a non-producing oil field. Despite these clear failures on the part of the state's former governors, some Bayelsans believe Nigeria's faulty federal system is the reason an oil-rich state like Bayelsa can be classified as bankrupt. They say with its many difficult environmental, social and infrastructure challenges, Bayelsa State should have access to more funds to be able to develop and industrialize the state.
I am totally opposed to the current parameters and indices used for revenue sharing. Revenues are derived by the states, and in federal practices, the states pay taxes to the center. Not this current way of taking revenue from one place and sharing it to others. We know how much is taken away from here. So if a little is brought back here, I don't think that anybody will wake up and say Bayelsa State is insolvent.
People from Niger Delta have always insisted that there should be resource control. They have always insisted that this country be restructured.
Bayelsa's insolvency status has many negative implications. For one, getting loans from financial institutions to invest in developmental projects will naturally become very difficult, as financial institutions would not want to give loans to bankrupt entities. With all these challenges, Bayelsa State's new governor, Senator Doyediri, who describes himself as a miracle governor, will surely need a miracle to turn the developmental tide around in the state. He needs to consider partnerships that can industrialize the state, boost commerce, and promote employment generation.
It is agriculture and industry, especially manufacturing. That is where you have, that is the real sector. That is where you have potential for growth and development. The government, the present government should think of investing so much in that area, in agriculture and small-scale industries.
Also, the state's oil block, OML 46, must be made functional and productive. All these will boost revenue generation for the state, and hopefully, in the near future, Bayelsa State can be reclassified as a solvent state.
Inside the Niger Delta,